She called it midnight yoga. The red scarf under our bed told a different story. I fix locks for a living, which is funny when you think about it. People hand me their panic, their twisted keys and jammed deadbolts, and I'm supposed to make everything open again. Doors, safes, trunks no one has touched since the Clinton years. If there's a mechanism between you and the thing you want, I can usually feel my way through it. My wife, Caro, is the opposite of a lock. She's a bright room. She's the kind of person who makes bartenders confess their real names and stray cats decide they've been owned all along. With Caro, everything feels easy, until the night her ease started sounding like a story she was telling someone else. Midnight yoga, she said, without meeting my eyes, tying her hair into a knot so soft it could have been a promise. It's a pop-up, rooftop class, please don't make fun. I would never mock spiritual stretching, I said, smiling because that's what a good husband does when a small stone drops into the lake of his calm. She kissed me like she was grateful I hadn't asked a second question. She smelled like orange blossom and something I couldn't name. At 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of our building's old elevator groaning its way down the shaft. Caro was still out. I wandered the apartment the way you wander a hotel corridor when you're not sure you're on the right floor. The bed was ours and also not. It had a new wrinkle I didn't recognize and half hidden at the footboard. A thin red scarf, the sort of satin that burns cold. Caro didn't own a red scarf. She didn't own red anything. She said red belonged to people who wanted to be seen from satellites. I picked it up the way you pick up a letter you know isn't addressed to you, already apologizing to a version of myself I hadn't met yet. The scarf smelled like cardamom and nightlife. When the elevator claws complained again, I tucked it into my top drawer beneath the socks that have never matched each other and went back to bed wearing stillness like a costume. In the morning, Caro's hair was damp, her cheeks flushed, and she stretched like a woman who had, in fact, done some kind of yoga. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked, kissing my shoulder and claiming the side of the mug with the chip, the one she always steals because she likes the way it fits her thumb. "Admiring my limber wife," I said. "You're a menace." She grinned at me and then, like a scene partner who just remembered her line, added, "Mina says hi. We don't know a Mina." I should have said it then. Who is Mina? Why does our bed smell like cardamom and audacity? Instead, I put on my jacket and walked to a townhouse in the East Village where an old woman had locked herself out of her powder blue bathroom, and her tiny dog was losing his mind about it. I drilled and picked and coaxed until the latch gave up its secret and thought about the way people build safes inside themselves. Sometimes they forget the combination on purpose. Sometimes they just hope no one will try it. At 5 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't know. RFT 8 p.m. You'll need the service stairs on Ludlow, dress dark, if you're early blend. The message was signed with a single initial, L. I read it 3 times, then a fourth, and felt my day rearrange itself around a gravity I didn't choose. RFT, Ruf top, L for what? Lucas, Leo, liar. I'm not proud of how quickly the dress dark part made sense to me. This is what happens when your job is seeing how things open. You stop believing that closed means safe. I told Caro I had a late call. "We're changing the cylinders at Marcel's bakery. Can't do it while they're proofing." She kissed me, soft and absent, eyes already smudged with another world. "Good luck," she said. "Don't bring home flour, it gets everywhere." "I'll be careful," I said, and it was honest enough to pass as true. The building on Ludlow was a slim stack of glass with an attitude. At 7:40 I found the service door wedged open with a paint can and the stairs humming with air conditioner breath. No one stopped me. The city does that sometimes. It looks right at you while you slip into a life you're not supposed to see. On the roof, the sky had the color of an idea. Globe lights strung between two steel poles gave everything a party glow, and the kind of music you hear in high-end commercials softened the sharp edges of the night. 3 dozen yoga mats were arranged like a pastel army. Women in black with hair that could sell anything drifted in clusters, holding tiny bottles of water like jewelry. At the far end, a man in a white tee and the kind of smile that says my name is a verb adjusted a speaker. I blended, which is to say, I became a handful of edges with no story attached. I circled the perimeter, my pulse counting to 8 the way you do when you're trying not to look like you're counting at all. Caro arrived at 8 on the nose, in navy leggings and a loose gray tank, a sweater draped over her shoulders like she'd borrowed the idea of warmth. She looked lit from inside. I felt proud and also like I had swallowed my own watch. She wasn't alone. Trailing her was a woman with red scarf energy, tall, impatiently beautiful, laughing with her teeth. She leaned in to whisper something, and Caro's mouth did that small smile it does when she's being dared by someone she respects. The woman with the red scarf, tonight it was looped at her wrist like a mark of rank, slid her palm down Caro's back in a way that was not yoga. L not a man. Lara maybe, Lark, Lida. The initial on the text sprouted new meanings. The instructor clapped once, the universal summoning. "Welcome to Midnight Flow," he said in a voice that made everyone agree he had dimples even if he didn't. "We'll move, we'll breathe, and we'll leave 10% better. Phones off. Minds on airplane mode." As the group arranged itself, I drifted behind a cluster of planters. From there I could see Caro unroll her mat and take her place in the second row, a small line forming between her brows, the one I know from our most honest arguments. The woman with the red scarf laid her mat beside Caro, and before lowering into child's pose, leaned over to say something near Caro's ear. The scarf brushed Caro's shoulder. My pulse miscounted itself. I forced air in and out. Jealousy is a loud instrument. If you let it, it drowns out the key. I watched Caro's spine lengthen, her breath steady, the integer of her back rising and falling like it belonged to me, which of course it didn't. The instructor cued the first sequence. Bodies breathed and flowed, and the city around us pretended not to be impressed. Half an hour in, when the playlist cooled to a murmur and the poses softened into what even I could recognize as something like prayer, the red scarf woman rose and drifted to the edge of the roof. Caro stayed where she was, eyes closed. After a moment, she stood too and followed, leaving her sweater like a ghost. Something passed between them, a glance that was either not here or now, and they disappeared behind the equipment shed like characters in a movie that had decided to become French. I should have stayed put. I should have let the ache bloom and die like a storm and gone home, and asked the question with my name still attached to it. Instead, I moved, quiet and fast, to the shadow of the shed. "Minutes," the other woman was saying, her voice a low, amused hum. "You said 1 drink last time, and then it was 5, and then it was touching." "Lara," Caro said, and the sound of her saying another woman's name like that made my teeth feel loose. "Lara." The initial had found its mouth. "I shouldn't have kissed you." "You shouldn't have liked it," Lara countered. "Silk around steel." "Caro, I'm not here to ruin anything. I'm here because you texted me at 2 in the morning to say you can't stop thinking about my mouth." My stomach tried on the idea of leaving my body. There was a long beat where the world listened. Then Caro exhaled, and it wasn't a surrender so much as a confession that doesn't know what to do with itself. "I'm married," she said. "He's good. He's careful with people. I don't want to blow up the thing we built just because you make me feel like I've been singing in the wrong key." "You don't have to blow anything up," Lara said gently. But you do have to stop lying to him. Tell him you kissed a woman. Tell him you liked it. Tell him you want to figure out what to do with that truth. Or don't, and we'll both be the worst versions of ourselves. Silence again. Then Caro, he deserves someone who doesn't need a rooftop to admit what she wants. And what do you want? Lara asked. I want, Caro said, and her voice faltered, and I could hear the exact point where a mask slips. I want my life, and I want to stop being afraid of the parts of it that don't fit the brochure. They stood like that, close but not touching, two magnets arguing about physics. When Lara finally spoke, she sounded unexpectedly older. Go home, she said. Tell the truth. If you still want me after you do, I'll be where I always am, at the bar on Delancey that thinks it's in Paris. I won't text first again. A footstep scuffed behind me. I turned too fast and knocked my wrist against a metal vent. The sound was small and humiliating, and also incredibly loud. Caro's head snapped toward the noise. For a second her face was pure instinct, fight, flight, or fetch the honesty. Aaron, she said. There are names you're grateful to hear, and names you dread knowing someone knows. Tonight, mine was both. I stepped out from the shadow, and if I could have opened the earth with my lock picks, I would have done it. Hey, I managed, as if I had run into them at the produce aisle. How's your core? Caro's mouth opened, closed, opened. She looked at Lara, then back at me, eyes bright with 1,000 sentences colliding in a hallway. I can explain, she said, and then shook her head as if correcting herself. No, I can tell you the truth. Lara watched us with a soft, clinical patience. I'm going to go, she said. Caro, call me only after you talk to him. Aaron, she said my name like a verdict she hadn't wanted to deliver. You married a woman who tries hard to be brave. She's about to get better at it. When she left, she dragged a strand of red satin from her wrist and tied it around the base of a light pole, a flag for a country we hadn't agreed to visit. The wind made it a living thing. We stood there in the hum of the city, and the instructor's voice drifting through the speaker at the other end of the roof, telling everyone to let go of what didn't serve them. I laughed once, low and ridiculous, because I was absolutely being served. I kissed her, Caro said, blurting it before she could turn it into theater. Twice. I liked it too much. I told myself I was experimenting with a truth I hadn't allowed myself before, but that makes it sound like a TED talk. It was selfish. And it was also real. I don't know who I've been. You've been my wife, I said, not to trap her but because it felt like a handhold. She stepped closer, fingers worrying the hem of her tank. I wanted to tell you. I tried to tell you about the yoga, and then I turned it into yoga. I didn't want you to look at me like you're looking now. How am I looking? I asked. Like you're picking a lock from the wrong side. The thing about locks is that most of them don't want to be complicated. You apply the right pressure in the right place, and they sigh and let you in. It's people who make it intricate. I'm angry, I said. And I'm not surprised, not because of you, because the version of us that never gets tested is the brochure version. We got married in a museum with a jazz trio and a bar that kept running out of limes. We're better than a brochure. Caro's breath shuddered. Do you still want me? I want the truth, I said. And you, in that order but not by much. Her laugh turned into something like a sob and then straightened itself. She stepped into me, cautious and then not. We weren't the kind of couple to perform on rooftops. Still, when her forehead found my shoulder, it felt like applause I could believe in. Come home, I said. We walked down the service stairs like teenagers who hadn't learned to be loud yet. On the street, we didn't talk. The city had decided to be kind and smelled like rain that hadn't happened yet. In the apartment, the scarf in my drawer glowed with its own private weather. I took it out and set it on the table between us. "I found this," I said. "I thought it belonged to a man." "It belongs to Lara," Caro said, "and that was the first gift. No evasions. She was here once. The night I told you I was meeting Mina." She winced at her own lie. "We kissed at the door. I chickened out like someone who wants to jump into cold water and then remembers she hates being cold." "Do you want to kiss her again?" I asked, "because there are questions you bleed out if you don't ask them." She lifted her eyes to mine, and whatever theater had tempted her earlier was gone. "I want to kiss the person I promised to. I want to kiss the man who fixed our neighbor's lock at midnight during a snowstorm because her kid was asleep inside, and she was crying in a language neither of you spoke. I want to be brave enough to say I am not as simple as I thought I was, and I am also not leaving." The rain that had been threatening finally found us, smearing the city into something forgiving on the windows. Caro reached for my hand. Her fingers were warm and shaking and sure. "I'm going to text Lara," she said. "I'm going to tell her I can't keep seeing her, not because I'm scared, because I'm choosing the life I said I wanted, plus the new part where I tell my husband what's actually happening inside me." She typed and I watched the words form, not because I needed evidence but because transparency, done right, is gentler than suspicion. She sent it. The three dots of Lara's reply appeared and then vanished and then appeared again, like a breath that didn't want to be caught. "Finally, thank you for the truth. Be good to him. Be good to yourself. No fireworks. No melodrama, just the necessary thing." We didn't ravish each other in the kitchen. We didn't write a scene for strangers. We did what people who are still in love do when the ground stops moving. We touched carefully and then with relief, our mouths finding their old geography, our hands relearning the map. The scarf sat on the table like an electric line we weren't crossing, and the rain did the rest of the sound design. When the moment wanted to be private, we let it be private. Later on the couch, wrapped in the blanket Caro claims is ugly and refuses to part with, she curled into me the way you do when you have remembered something about home. "We need rules," she murmured. "Not like a prison, like choreography." "Okay," I said. "Rule 1, no more imaginary Minas." She laughed, sleepy and feral. "Rule 2, if you ever want to try something, anything, you say it when you want it, not after you've found a rooftop." "Rule 3, when we're tempted to lie, we choose a harder sentence." "Rule 4, she added, nuzzling my jaw, "we keep kissing like the truth tastes good." I thought about the doors I open all day long, and the way a mechanism yields when you understand it instead of forcing it. I thought about Lara's red scarf tied to a light pole, a small flag I didn't need to take down to know it wasn't mine. I thought about my wife breathing on a rooftop and saying I want my life. A week later, Caro dragged me to an actual yoga class at a studio that smelled like clean wood and sincerity. I'm terrible at it. I shake in poses teenagers hold like gossip. But when the instructor said, "Open your chest," I did, and Caro smiled at me like I was a door she had always known how to unlock. Sometimes people hire me to install a brand new lock when the old one is fine. They want the illusion of safety, the theater of a fresh start. Here is the truth I keep for myself, and now for you. The best locks are the ones you already know how to open. The best promises are the ones that get rewritten in the margins, not because the original was a lie, but because you learn to read yourself better. Caro still smells like orange blossom in the mornings. Sometimes, I swear this is real, I catch a ghost of cardamom and it doesn't stab anymore. It's a reminder that we're not brochures. We're a city after rain. We're a door with a scuff mark that tells you exactly where to push. And if you're wondering, the red scarf. We tied it to the fire escape outside our bedroom window. It flutters there like an honest signal, the kind you can see from the street, the kind that says someone told the truth up here and then decided to stay.